Oh, now Irene came up, Irene.
Yeah, she's corrected it. Okay, so this is our conversation for Journey Installment 15, chapters 112 to 119. We're getting along. So welcome everyone, and over to you, Rick. Go ahead.
How's everybody doing today?
Great, thanks.
Good. Good. Right. Well, if you don't mind, I want to share this one thing that happened to me this week, which is, well, really, it's been a couple weeks. So we were talking, last week about how your small self or your ego can go to the back burner. And mine came to the front burner, and I wasn't really aware of it. I really wasn't. But it was there in such a strong way. And hi, Lorraine. So what happened is, when I was receiving this book, I wasn't in a trance state, but I was in a protected space where all of this information was coming through and it was protected. There weren't any additional thoughts to it. It was a special space, like going into a special room for it. And same thing with messages that we get, that those too are received in this special space. It starts off kind of formally with the date and a greeting, and then we get right into it. But I also get messages just through the day, just in regular life, walking around, and I know what they are. Like, for example, I've gotten a couple that are pretty constant, and one is, we want the same thing as you, same things as you, and then you have a lot to learn. I get that a lot. And so, but because my small self had stepped into the front, I was bugging spirit. I was begging and pleading and asking for something for the past few weeks. And I was sure that I was going to receive it. The reason why is because I was interpreting these messages that, oh yeah, well, everything's cool because it says, we want the same things as you. So that's absolutely going to happen. This thing is going to happen, right? Well, it didn't happen. And the reason why it didn't happen is because I was not asking from love. I was asking from my small self. It was a place of control. There was no neutrality in it. Absolutely no neutrality in it. I was fully invested in a certain outcome, and that outcome didn't happen. So what happened when this was finished? I was like a 2-year-old. It says I'm 59, but I was like a 2-year-old. I was mad because I'm like, you told me that this was going to happen, but that's not true. That's not what was said to me. I was not promised that it was going to happen. I was misinterpreting the message because my small self was all involved in this thing, right? So I wasn't thinking clearly. So I just wanted to share that with you all, that it happened, and now I can see clearly about it. I was acting like a 2-year-old when I didn't get what I wanted. But who was it that was asking? It wasn't my soul. It was my little personality that was just trying to push its weight around. And, that's not how things work, right? And I wasn't being a co-creator. I was trying to take charge. There was no co-creation. So I wanted to share that. And the reason why I'm sharing it is because it's helping me to have clarity, to hear it in this manner. So thank you for listening.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
It's
That's a tough
interesting
one.
that you use the word neutrality. Was that in the last few lessons? Because that's been coming up for me in a couple different things. Heart Math does a heart call. They had one yesterday, and I listened to the recording today, and it was talking about responding from that place of neutrality. When we find ourselves, my thing is computers And I guess my computer's starting to have some problems that I either have to get fixed or get a new one, whatever. But anyhow, I go way off. Little self is all over. Talk about a 2-year-old. There's about 3 of them in the room when this happens. Anyway, so what it is about bring yourself back into a neutral place so that you can, well, first of all, bring yourself back to peace, but then be open for whatever is to happen, not what you want to happen or what you're afraid will happen and all that other stuff. So anyhow, the 2 women that were on the call, the one woman was just diagnosed with she used this when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And the other woman was out of her house because of the fires, lately. And both of these are really dramatic things. And their explanation, how they went into the heart, doing the heart mind coherence, but then to come from a neutral place and not be fearful of an outcome that they can't control, or just going off on a tangent of what might happen, or even it's okay to have in mind what you would like to happen, but not to be attached to it. So this neutrality thing has been coming up this week. So I just wanted to add that during that conversation, we have a new person.
Yeah, I'd like to welcome Jamuna. Can you unmute yourself?
Aloha.
Hi. Maybe everyone can
Hi.
introduce yourselves. So Jamuna called me, actually. It was wonderful getting a phone call from somebody who was excited about seeing a post about Journey, an actual phone call. So that was wonderful. Thanks for calling rather than sending an email. So it's lovely to have you. So can you introduce yourself a little? That'd be lovely to hear from you, Jamuna.
Sure. Aloha from Hawaii, from the island of Oahu, also known as the Gathering Place. Well, I was kind of like put here by the Holy Spirit. I was just I saw a Facebook post on somewhere, I forget where exactly, and I saw co-creating clarity, and something pulled me in. Well, we all know what that something is. And I just felt guided to contact Christina. And I don't know, I just called because being in Hawaii, there's a time difference, and it was still daytime in the Eastern time zone. It wasn't too late, and I just called, and it just went from there. And I got to know about Journey into the Unknown. And I don't know, something just called me in, and I found this. It's perfect. I don't know. Is there anything else you would like to know? I mean, I'm into arts, fashion. I've been doing the course for about almost 20 years. I've been on a spiritual journey most of my life. I've been on Oahu in Hawaii for 15 years. I don't know.
Really glad you're here. Really, really
Thank
glad.
you.
Yeah.
Aloha.
Welcome to our group.
Thank you.
So it's really being present in the moment. So don't worry about, more about yourself. We're sharing in the moment how we are, and we've all come from different backgrounds of spiritual paths, and it's all about the new, what we're co-creating here. And Rick just told us a story about that. I mean, it really is, Rick, when you talked about the ego coming forward and being in charge, that 2-year-old, what I do with mine when I know that's happening, which is not all the time. I don't know till, I'm already in trouble sometimes, but more and more I'm getting to discern, what that's coming from. I mean, I've literally treating that as if it's a little child. I say, here's a bar of chocolate, here's a blanket, and a lovey. Now go sit in the back seat and cuddle up. We're going for a drive. Just take over.
That's so true. But I really didn't know. I didn't want to admit that that's what was happening. And I was so wrapped up into this thing that I didn't want to admit that. But that is true. It is like a child. So I like your analogy there about giving it a candy bar and a blanket. So we've been talking the past few weeks about having our ego, our small self go on the back burner and our soul is leading the way. But sometimes things trigger our small self and we get wrapped up in things for a while. And so that's kind of what we've been talking about.
Would everyone
Past
like
few
to just
weeks.
say hi and say where you are? Because we know that Jamuna's in Hawaii.
Yeah, this is John. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. I've been usually I've been walking and listening to during this hour, but today I decided to stay home and wanted to be where I could communicate and listen. I just a number of thoughts where I am. I just before.
Actually, John, I'm sorry. Let's do a quick round of just where people are physically, geographically.
Okay.
By
Sure.
all means.
Yeah.
I just wanted people to say their names and say hi to Jamuna. And we'll come right back to you, right?
Oh, sure. Okay, sure.
So you're in San Francisco, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead, everyone.
It's Kevin. I'm back in London.
Lorraine, you're on mute.
Can you unmute yourself?
Dang it. Okay. So I'm Lorraine, and I'm from just outside of Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. So nice to have you here.
And I'm Judy from San Francisco as well.
I'm Rick and I'm from San Francisco too.
Irene, are you there?
Oh, I'm back now. I just hunted up the pages. What was the question?
Oh, just say hi and introduce yourself quickly and just say where you are geographically.
Oh, Irene Stewart. I live on the end of Long Island in New York City, New York State. Let's see, was involved with the Course in Miracles for about 35 years.
Oh, wow. I'm Jamuna, I'm sorry. Irene wins. You're only 20 years or whatever it is. So.
What? And some
I'm just kidding.
and a whole bunch of other stuff on this vein. And I was at another Joshua retreat kind of thing when they talked about about Journey Group. And
Great.
so I contacted you all, and so here I am.
Great,
I love it.
great. Wonderful. Let's go back to John. Go ahead, John. You had something.
Oh, yeah. I don't, this past week, well, first of all, I go to church on Sundays. I'm a Catholic church. And until a couple of weeks ago, you weren't able to attend in person because of the COVID restrictions. So, and then they just recently opened up the church to a limited seating. So I've been able to see people that I used to see before the pandemic hit. So that was really good. And to see, and I enjoy seeing people that I knew from church. And after church, this woman that I know, she's in her 80s. She was talking to some people, and I just said, "Oh, hi. I'm so glad to see you." And she just was telling people that she's about ready to to meet her maker, so to speak. She's ready. She's ready to pass on to the next dimension, and and so she reached out her hand to me, and 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 I just decided to put my hand on hers, her hand, irregardless of how I felt about precautions, and because I just want, in the moment there, I just wanted that human to human interaction, that human to human touch, which I think we long for. Um, and then also on Monday night, I attend these, it's called Centering Prayer, and it's a meditation group. And and there was some sharing afterwards. And this guy I know from church is in, he shared that he was in 4th stage heart failure. So was very, he was, tears came to his eyes, and he was, and I just, after the Zoom call ended, I called him up and just got his voicemail and just, said, Godspeed to you, God bless you, and just wanted just to touch, just to reach out to you, and then I'm in contact with this guy I know from church also, who's in his late 80s, and we just, I call him up and just seeing how he's doing. So it's just a process for me of where this communicating, this touching people, which I think we really are all need right now. And it's just every day when I go on my walks, I try, as I remember it, I say silently to people, bless you or God bless you. And as at an ending of my, when I email somebody or text somebody, I say God bless. So I'm blessing, as Jesus recommends, we bless people. So that's what I'm getting out of a journey into the unknown. Is this anyway, I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you, John, for sharing. Who else has had anything interesting that's come up this week based on our installment that we received? Jude?
It's not from the installment. It was from Mary's letter or note to us last week. And for the life of me, I'm trying to figure out what she might have learned from me. When she said she's learning from all of us, and I'm going, wow, how not to be in the world, or what an ego is like these days, or that's kind of crossed my mind a couple times.
Maybe you're being harsh on yourself. You've probably done so many wonderful things that you've forgotten about.
Well, I'm sure I've done a few, but I mean, it just is, I guess I was taken back by that she even said that she was learning from any of us, much less me. So yeah, being harsh on myself is what I do.
She doesn't have your human experience and all the opportunities you've taken to increase the love on the planet as a human being. And that's at the very least what we all gain from each other, right? Experiences that we don't have in places where we've chosen for love, and also learning from places where we haven't. I mean, that's love just keeps growing and growing and growing with every choice we make. So yeah, well, it's all love or a call for love. So
Absolutely. I think what John just shared, we're called to love unconditionally and love ourselves and love those brothers and sisters, right? And there is neutrality, because there's none of us are right, none of us are wrong. we are pure love if we get down to our essence. And we are called to love unconditionally, which I think I said. There was another point I wanted to make, but it's gone. But I will share that I did find this installment especially powerful. They all are, and I learned so much from them all. Oh, I was going to say about Mary learning a thing or two from us is that in our stepping out to love, in our being here together because we've committed ourselves maybe to each other and to this journey. So we're kind of each other's support and cheerleaders right now. We've stepped up. We are trying to see every soul as the beautiful love that they are. And maybe she's watching this process and seeing that we are doing things that don't surprise her, but she's learning a thing or two about us by even responding to the call, right? So anyway, back to this beautiful installment. They all are, but there was so many beautiful little golden nuggets, as I said to Christine. But I kind of have starred in chapter 114 and 115. The atonement in it, that was just that one big paragraph, but it had, I'm going to actually turn to it here. It had so much in it. You finally come to the conclusion that you aren't a character in a play and never have been. You are life itself, giving animation to each and every character. So we're not our ego or our separated selves. We are an identity and just a character in a play that we've all agreed to take a part in. To be, some of us have chosen to be dark so somebody can see the lights, and we want to be the light, of course. But we're taking a part in this play so that each spark of light in every soul can be illuminated. And if it means we're in a dark, taking a dark part for the moment, getting into that ego, there's still purpose to that. You can't see your light, you can't shine if you don't, if you didn't know there was dark that you're lighting up, right? But I love that. And then it says, your life itself, giving animation to every character. You are part of the source of all. So we're, the neutrality, and it's seeing ourselves, I have talked about, well, okay, I need to go beyond their identity and see them as souls. And even we speak about, yeah, but I'm you and you're me. And really trying to see myself in everybody, that I'm an aspect of we are all part of that source. We're all that aspect. So I really love that because it, sometimes things are just said in a way that it just hits home further. It's articulated, and it's another aha moment about that process of who we really are. And I think a common theme in these is always who we really are, and the identity crisis. And then what's that last chapter where it says, is it the make and model and the color? Because racism is the most horrific plague in our human experience, right? And why does it matter what color, make, or model we are? If we're a vehicle, it doesn't matter. But if we're people, to be different, to be a different make, model, or color as a person, it's been the scourge, I think it said, of the earth, right? And we do see in our time of COVID, the pandemic is, all these things are bubbling up that we have to deal with. And I think I've said before, we can't move forward if we don't face the challenges of the social issues, and the earth, how we've exploited it, right? And we need to reflect and see how we are going to move forward. But that's what Journey is about too. And it's popping up in Journey that we need to move forward, creating a brand new, just even forgetting all our thoughts that just happened before us and being so open and new to the moment. But I think what is being reflected on that outside of how we have to move forward is the journey, is our journey. And it's calling us, it's pulling us forth to creating each moment anew. And I was going to make a point that is left the track. So about that. The other thing is chapter 114, atonement, when you have stopped.
Judy, can I
looking
mean,
for-
sorry, not Judy, Lorraine, can I just interrupt you for 1 second?
Yes, you can. Because
Everything you're saying, I mean, it's so important because even the racism thing is another layer of not seeing everyone as ourselves. I mean, it's all about oneness, right? If we recognize that everyone's experience is our experience and ours is theirs, you know, there would be none of this separation. Of course, I think somewhere in that chapter it says there's a big difference between having a body and
yes,
you know,
being a body and having a
you know,
body.
so that's very
Thinking
clear
you're a
also.
body.
But
Yeah.
I just quickly looked up the thing that I thought I remembered, and it's in chapter 2. Jamuna, have you read chapter 2? So I was feeling a little bad that she's just starting, but in chapter 2 it says, "You have done it all. You have seen life through many lenses. You've been a mother, father, a wayward teen. You've crashed the car. You've killed and you've been killed out of anger, out of circumstances beyond your control. You've been the victor at a fight. You've been the loser in the corner. You've raised children. You've been the president of the company and a janitor." I mean, that's just a handful of things. But that was in chapter 2.
Yes. But
I mean,
and that's
really.
Yeah.
that's seeing the aspect in of ourselves in everything, you know,
Right.
that
It's very clear.
dis-
You can't miss that.
no, that
But if you
disturbing
missed it, then
video.
we're in trouble. Yeah.
Yes. Sorry,
Jamuna, you wanted
June,
to say something.
say something.
Oh yeah, it just you know, I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with the Bhagavad Gita, but it just brings me to the battle of Kurukshetra. You know, I don't know why, because you know, when you bring up the killing and the non-killing, and I don't know, it just brings for me how we have been everything and everyone, and I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's all about human
No.
experience. I mean, it's all about experience.
Yeah,
In neutrality,
Yeah.
back to that word again.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Thank you.
The neutrality and the sameness, right? The sameness. That
Well,
video that we saw with George Floyd being, you know, having the life taken from him. And it disturbed me terribly. And I think maybe I've shared this until I thought, no, Lorraine, but you were both characters in that. You were both Derek Chauvin, the police on top of him, and you were George. And that's the neutrality, seeing the sameness, right? That we're all equal. And even outside with what's going on, you know, the right and the wrong and the wearing the mask or not. And we are all on the same journey. We're all going to the same place. I think in one of our chapters in the installment says when you, and it kept, oh, see, I'm getting distracted, but it kept saying, cheers to you, well done. Look what you've done, because you've got to the end of the race and now you're turning around and you're going to pull your brothers and sisters across that finish line. There's somewhere in I think installment 114. So if we're accomplished, but then we're not, in that we're still on the journey, but we're also the destination. And I think I read a post just recently, Christina, where you're saying the same thing. You know, the journey is the destiny. It's the same thing, right? So, okay. It's time to stop because I've lost my train of thought.
If I could say something real quick, I just wanted to go back to what Judy was saying. That story that I told at the beginning of this session proved to me that spirit, you know, Jesus and Mary and all spiritual entities, they do not see us the way we see ourselves, and they do not see us as being separate from them. And so our human conditioned viewpoint of, we're lowly creatures and they are up high, that's a human perspective. And so their perspective is very different. And frankly, my small self obviously had a very hard time with their perspective on what I was asking for. But so, it's interesting. And I guess that's part of unity too. The further we get into it, the more we discover about it. And there's a lot of stuff that will never be in any book. You just have to find out for yourself, and you might have to find out the hard way, like I did, when you are off track and you're just going crazy with your small little desires and not even recognizing it. Christina recognized it, but I did not recognize it.
Well, I don't
So,
always. I don't always, but yeah, more and more so, I think.
I mean, that's what we're doing. That's the journey, is we're discovering things about unity every day, and things about our true selves and things about our false selves that maybe we'd never recognized before. But it seems that the viewpoint from the spirit level is very different from how we think of things. So I can see, Judy, where Mary would look at you and admire so many things about you. But if you're looking at from your point of view, you may not see it that way. But that's part of what we're all discovering, is how do they see things? And then how can we see things more in alignment with how they see it?
That's a really important point, because one of the things that took me a long time to get, years to get, was, we fairly easily get that we don't want to act and feel superior to people, but we don't often get taught that you're also not inferior. You're all equal. So it's like, it's all one web. And the Course of Love has different languages for it, and I love all of it, where it talks about distinctions within the whole. We're distinct, but we're within the whole. The sameness and the difference, just difference, distinctness, difference, individuation within the whole. And then there's a thing which goes into mathematics, and it talks about to experience variability within wholeness, and it's all about the fact that we are one heart, one mind, one love, one will. And I think the hardest thing to get for me has been the joining it's all about separation. I don't want to have a separate will anymore. It's a divine will serving, and that oneness. So when there's a separate will, that's when the little ego tries to get into the driving seat, Yeah.
Yeah, this is John. I'm a big sports fan, and one time I was watching Good Morning America on TV, and there was this story about this soccer team in the U.S. who was playing was on the verge of advancing to their league's playoff game, and some player on the opposite side of opposing team made a homophobic slur against another player on their team, and their coach decided that they wouldn't. They decided to have a team meeting right away, almost right away, and to should we continue on with this playoff series, because one member of our team had a homophobic slur against him from the other team, and we're not going to take it anymore. So they decided as a team, voted as a team, that they would forfeit their playoff, their win, and decided to walk off in mass on the field in front of all the TV cameras as a protest. And and then also later on, that league suspended that other team's player who made the homophobic slur. So many games. Just goes to show you, and I'm seeing it all around me as I go on my walks and watching TV, on the news or whatever, is that people are just, there seems to be something going on in the world around us, and it's the spirits of Jesus, Mary, all the masters, all the Buddhas seem to be emboldening us to create this new world. Like looking at our election right now, people are just, they've had enough of this division, and they want the country to unite. So you're talking about unity. There is this something about unity, like those players decided to be unified against racism. So it's just, it makes me optimistic about. So I see it as Jesus is telling us about these things that we're, as each new installment comes out. I look forward to each new installment because it's telling me what I need to hear. And it also is showing me that things that I can do in my life to advance myself to a more perfect world. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, John. How are you doing, Kevin?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I'm kind of cooking at the moment. I think that's a good expression. It's cooking. I mean, it's a couple of Christina sent a link to 40 days and 40 nights that I think that is channeling. And I wasn't really listening to any of this, but I really have been listening to that as well. And it's been keeping me busy, kind of. And there's things going on with me. I mean, when I was in Ireland, as I said to you, it was an extraordinary experience there. That whole, it was a journey of blessing, really, the whole thing there. You know, as you remember, there was a lot of resistance going there. And I could see the forgiveness and the stories, and I could almost see all the family members, and there was just a softening and gentleness towards anything. And when I came back to London, you know, the conversations with my dad, there were still elements of separation in that about the aunties and stuff, but I wasn't having any of it in a good way. I could notice I wasn't buying it, accepting. There was something beautiful in the conversation that was new with me and him as well, about that whole history with them. And it continued to be a blessing, I'm still cooking in the whole blessing thing. I mean, blessing is something that's come through this, which has surfaced. And it's almost like I'm sensing an energy of, I'm blessed and I'm blessing, and I don't know the whole thing, what's going on, but there's something energetically going on with this that's I can't explain it, but and I'm opening. I think I'm opening in other ways, and as you just talked about how they see us, these entities, the spiritual entities, how they see us, and we don't, they see us as whole, and but this other part of us, they're not interested, they don't see that. But what was interesting for me was I started recording dreams, which I've never done before, really. I started, just really seeing what goes on, what I mean. And one of the things that came up for me this week was I was going to bed, just leaving myself open to say, look, I feel that with me that there's, I suppose that's with everyone, that there's almost like fast tracking going on with all of this stuff. There's an earnestness in my connection, in work that I'm doing. And physically, I'm doing stuff. I'm eating very organic food, all kinds of things, not with a particular goal, but that I was doing this anyway. I've gone on a health program, all kinds of things that I was doing. And kind of so I was dreaming. One of the things that came up, just a surprise thing, was that. So I had a dream one night, and I was a dream, and there was I don't know what I did, but I destroyed the aliens. I killed the aliens in this dream, and I got up, and I really saw this as a good sign. I actually saw that, wow, that I could see that, wow, all the programming, all these programs that I've had over the last 20, 30 years that have been in there, that anything that could come through to me, as you say, these entities that might be one that they are speaking to myself or whoever constantly, but I'm in the way, and I'm also in the way when I'm dreaming with this. I've got these judgments of aliens. I mean, and I'm just being open to aliens and everyone right now, because I realize that I'm probably blocking these entities as aliens, and this beautiful. There's light coming through. It's very clear to me on the planet. I wouldn't say that before. You say light easily, but I really am sensing that. And I'm finding that, yeah, I'm opening. There's something exciting about this. I'm opening, to interplanetary stuff. There's stuff that I'd never really ever even go near. I wouldn't, it was just, so there's this opening, and it's unconscious. I was a bit annoyed with it, when I was thinking about all the stuff that I put in, that I've been watching for years and years and years in that beautiful space. Where's my space in all this? Well, my space has been invaded. And so I'm just being a bit more conscious of what I'm watching at the moment. And I've cut out the mixed martial arts, which I was quite addicted to, this one side winning, and I noticed myself pulling for one. I'm pulled out of a lot of things like that, this matrix stuff. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment.
Thank you for sharing, Kevin.
And the other thing I wanted to share was that there's a growing, because it's a funny thing, because I don't think I was strongly connected to the Marys, but I realized when I came from Ireland that there was a very strong devotion in that family, my mother's side, to the Marys. And there was just a realization that I'm started to, I'm being drawn towards the Marys in whatever ways I'm being drawn to right now. And it's really interesting, some stuff that's growing and cooking at the moment. And I'm not defining it or anything, but there's just a pull, and it feels very, very different,
Can I just say, Kevin, that the sweetest thing for me about your story is that you're following your heart. There is no right and wrong about eating organic or not organic, or watching TV or not watching TV, what programs you watch, whether you follow Mary or not follow Mary. It is you. Everything is within you. And what I hear you doing in all of what you've just said is beginning to trust yourself more and more, and yourself as part of all of that, everything, and just choosing with love for yourself, which is love for everyone. I've always said we can't love others as we can only love others as much as I love myself. And that's been the most strenuous journey for me.
Yeah, thank you.
So thank you,
Christina.
Thank you.
And, speaking of love, I really don't always recognize it from a human perspective. I may not recognize it. Maybe it doesn't look how I think it should look. So I learned that this week, that maybe it's not going to be how I think it should be. So
That's really cute, Rick, since the two things that Jenny tells us is forget everything you think you know and lose all the shoulds.
yeah.
I love it. Thank you for saying that. I love it.
It makes me laugh, because when I first came on this call about I forget when I came on, I remember I just jokingly said I could do with a relocation. And I ended up having 2 weeks in Ireland, you know, my father paid for the ticket for me to go there and everything else because I was, but you know, it's careful what you say. I need to define it better, really.
Well, you said it because you knew that was your next step. You already knew, and it just came out. And, you know, because your knowing was already connecting to the larger knowing. Well, that's my understanding of it. And then it just has to come into form. Things take time to come into form. But the knowing in your heart came out at our first time we met you. Yeah, that was great.
Yes, I've seen that and experienced that a few times now. What you said there, Christina, absolutely. Yeah.
I think we know it. We know it first at that very deep level.
In the heart, yeah.
And then we're unsure how it's going to manifest itself, but we will recognize it. We recognize it, I think, or we realize the knowing when something manifests itself before us in form or relocation. Maybe some of us, I'm going to move into a new home soon, right? Maybe relocation isn't always a geographical maneuver or navigation. Just listening to your story, relocation was sending you somewhere where you were getting a glimpse of the Marys that have probably been very instrumental working in your life. And that was a relocation, you know, yeah. So beautiful. That story was so beautiful. And Christina, how you summed it all up. It's so beautiful.
Well, I kind of wanted to say about myself, it's like, I didn't know in March when lockdown began that I would be spending the next 9 months of my life shaping and offering Journey into the Unknown to the world. But when it landed on my desk from Glenn Holman, and I read it in a day and a half, I knew. I didn't know how exactly, but I knew. And I began knowing that it had to be online, blah, blah, blah. But the rest of it just landed in perfect timing and still is landing. Every week, the installment lands. So I'm having this experience, which I've never had quite so intensively around. So for me, it's the process, not the reading of the words as much as the process of living every word the last 6 months and probably another 3 months. Yeah. And well, hopefully living it forever, but you know, in this form for another 3 months. Yeah. Thank you, Rick, for that.
And that's important what you say, Christina, because really, I find it such a big release that I don't have to memorize and I don't have to articulate well. It's okay if I lose track. It doesn't matter. You know, I've showed up, but it's because I want to live it and I want to embody it. And how am I loving today? How am I, you know, being the best version of myself I can be? But it is the living out of who I am. And that's the journey of getting to know ourselves more and more and more as the oneness, as the aspect of the source. But it comes down to, ultimately, there's only love. There is only love. So it's either, you know, and how are we playing our part in demonstrating and illustrating there is only love. You know, and in chapter 17, it does say we're establishing a significant group of peacemakers, because just before that, it says most of us don't have a clue about who we are in truth. All other human problems are effects from this major misperception of not knowing who we truly are. That identity crisis that keeps coming up.
Yeah, and in spiritual communities, we've spent, this is my opinion, so it's far too many decades talking the talk and much less of walking the talk. And for me, it's always been very different from the moment I began my, you know, specific self-help books and A Course in Miracles and all of that, many sources. It was like, okay, what does this mean to me today? in my work when I get up, get the kids up and go to work, you know? Yeah. But the first time, Journey into the Unknown is the first text I've seen that just makes it so clear. That's what you're supposed to do. So
To
affirming
embody it and live it.
instantly, every moment
Yeah.
of every day. Yeah. Yeah. And so simple. You can't miss the message. You might not like the message, but you can't miss it.
And who is it that isn't liking it?
Give him a bar of chocolate.
I know that person. I know who it
And a
is.
banky, a blanket.
And a blanket.
How are you doing, Irene?
Sorry.
Oh, it's been a confusing week in a good way and a bad way. I don't mean bad exactly. I don't even know if I can talk about it. The last, when Lorraine talked about only love, that hit me because some of it was that, and so some of the time I feel like I'm not here, but I'm here. I don't know that that makes any sense, but it's like I'm not worrying about anything. So that is peculiar in itself. And it's like, well, everything is just okay. You know, people say things to me that before I would have gotten my back up, and it's like, oh, all right. There's that part of it. Then I'm going to tell this. I guess I'm going to tell this story on myself. Some way I got myself all tangled up. I almost never go to the doctor. If I can possibly help it, I never go to the doctor. So I wasn't feeling well. So my son kept nagging me. And so he made an appointment. I went to the doctor. She said, who knows? So she sent me to the emergency room. They did a bunch of tests. The tests came back and she looked at them and she said, well, you don't have that wrong with you and you don't have that wrong with you. Well, between the time I went to the doctor, between the time my son made the appointment and I got there to the doctor, I was in a really good state of, I'm fine, I'm well, this is nothing, it's about nothing. And I was doing really good. Then I went to the medical model, which is going to the doctor. And they were terribly nice to me, and the emergency room was nice to me. Everybody was so nice to me. But then that's the medical model. So if the medical model is blood, taking blood, giving you medicine, that kind of Freddy stuff. And so until I went to that part, I was doing really good. Then I went to the emergency room and back to the doctor, who looked at all the stuff and said, well, I can't see anything wrong with you. Then I started to get worried, which makes, it's all backwards. I should have been worried to start with, perfectly calm. And so now I'm halfway between. I need to get back to, it doesn't matter, it's nothing, to the place I was to start with. I still have to see one other guy who's going to do them, because they always send you, every doctor sends you to another one. They all have to, pay their rent. One nurse told me once, so they send you to somebody else. So I still have to go to somebody else. But I noticed how quickly I could change gears from being totally okay with everything and that calm and relaxed and it was okay. And I really believed it and I felt it. I'm not saying I just put that on to get myself frightened. How quickly I just slipped into that, getting myself frightened. And now I have to get myself out of frightened, because frightened will, do for me that which I assume I don't want to do. I don't want to draw to myself the the thing that I obviously didn't yet. And so I would, if I worry about, if I allow fright to, if that's the right word, if I allow that to take over my thinking, I can create what it is that what I don't want. So I have to let that go again. It was very, I became aware that look what you just did without even giving it a minute's thought. I didn't think, gee, I think I'll worry myself into being sick. I just did that automatically. And so it's been a unnerving week. I would say I'm a bit annoyed at myself, but I at least aware now. And so we'll cross off the word annoyed and at least aware how quickly I can change gears, how quickly I can, and for a couple of days I didn't watch television. I was feeling really good. And then I allowed myself to turn on the television. It started out okay. Then it went to, the current craziness, and I allowed myself to get into crazy. And so I have to get out of crazy because I will produce, I feel that I'm responsible for whatever happens in the whole world. But, whatever happens, I don't want to jump off the bridge. So,
It sounds good that you're not worrying so much. That's a positive thing. Hey, everybody, I've got to go to a work meeting now. And so I am going to send your message, our message to you within the hour. We've run out of time to share it on this screen, but it was a great conversation. I learned so much from all of you. And thank you for letting me share my drama with you. And you all have a great week, and we'll see you next week, hopefully.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Thank
Aloha.
you for coming, Jamuna. See you all next week, maybe.
Awesome. Awesome Andy Warhol, by the way. The Velvet Underground's one of my favorite bands.
Oh, thank you. we should talk. I'm a big music lover.
Yeah.
Okay.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye
Thanks for
now.
coming,
Bye.
guys. See you next week.
Okay, God bless. God bless everybody.
Bless you all. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Christina.